the KSDS Schechter Connector podcast for May 10th, 2023.
Today we are having something special and different.
That's right. Izak Danon, father of KSDS alumni Josh Danon, is a Holocaust survivor.
We wanted to hear his story, so we recently sat down and interviewed him.
Actually, we had a couple of the 6th graders interview him for the podcast, and we are going to share that interview with you now.
Hi, Mr. Danon. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
All right. So we hear you're.
I'm happy to be here talking to you guys.
Yeah, I hear you're a Holocaust survivor, and we wanted to ask you a few questions about
Please do.
how did you feel when you saw the burnt books and the damage in the town square the day after the Jews of Split were attacked?
This is where we used to come and say our prayers, and this is where we gathered every week. And now there's no more synagogue and no more Jewish center there. So I felt like maybe this is like the Kristallnacht that took place in Germany. The Italians were getting mean to us again. I felt very bad. But I was a kid, I was your age, as a matter of fact, at the time. And I was with my sister. And at that point, we said, I wonder what else did they do last night to the synagogue and Jewish community. So we went to see several stores that were owned by the Jewish people. And they were all, like my uncle had a cosmetic store about a block away. His display window was smashed. People entered the store through the display window. Everything glass all over the floor. The perfume bottles were either broken or I guess they stole them. So it was a pretty bad feeling.
Well,
But yeah, we said our community is finished now.
yeah, that definitely sounds very sad, and that also kind of sounds really scary, and thinking what would come next. What
was going through your head when Germany took over Split? I wasn't there when Italians did all this smashing and everything. My father said, we're not in good shape here, so let's get ready. We may have to run. And he bought 2 backpacks, one my size, one little one for me, and one for himself. And we packed it with, stuff for change, like a couple of sweaters, some underwear, a pair of shoes, a couple of socks. And they were there in the corner near the door. So when this happened, we said, let's be careful. So maybe a couple of weeks later, on the Sunday, while we were asleep, the neighbors came banging on the door. Mr. Danon, the Germans are coming. And that was our signal. I was your size at the time. Pick up my backpack. Why was it me and my father? Because Germans always took the men first. And I was bar mitzvah. That makes me a man.
Yeah.
So they would take me to labor camps and all that. And we escaped and we went to the mountains.
Yeah.
Started marching toward the mountains.
Okay. That connects to our next question.
Okay.
We heard you were a partisan in the mountains.
We went to join the partisans in the mountains. And we walked all day. And after a while, we came to a place where there was about maybe 8-10 houses. And there was a city square. So we sat down in the bench there, took out some of our food, started eating. And a lady that lived there, I guess, she walks by one time, looks at us, then she comes back, looks at us again, comes back the third time, and then she comes to my father. I know you. And he says, I think I know you too. You used to come to my store. My father had a fabric store, clothes
Yeah.
by yard. So, yeah, they're talking. So, what are you guys doing here? We escaped. The Germans were coming, so we escaped here to join the partisans. Oh, she says, I can't help you that, but my husband may help you. So go meet her husband at her place. Met her husband. He also didn't know much, but he knew somebody who did. See, partisans were secret. They didn't come out and fight the Germans. Germans had tanks and weapons.
Yeah.
Partisans, some had rifles, some not even that. So they went to the mountains and they were hiding. And we were hiding, and we said we want to join them. It's a matter of hiding. So they they were going to take us. The husband was going to take us to some people who knew the partisans, and he eventually did. And we met some people. Said, "Why do you want to join the partisans?" And we said, "We're escaping from Germans, and there's no other place." So we went. So we want to join the party. You want me to continue the same story, or you have more questions?
Yeah.
What
yeah,
was
we
your
have-
life like before the Holocaust?
What did I what?
What was your life like before the Holocaust?
What was life before Holocaust? Hey, life for us kids was beautiful. We went to school half a day, come out from school, rush home,
Lucky.
change, eat something, run outside. A whole bunch of friends were out there waiting for you. Come on, let's go play soccer. That was our main sport there. And you spend the afternoon just playing around and enjoying life.
It sounds really fun.
The what?
It sounds really fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Saturday and Sunday, I would go to the Jewish Center. In the center, they would assemble us by age group, and there would be a high schooler in charge of each group, and she or he would prepare stuff for us to do. We would go to the city maybe, and maybe walk around, maybe go to the beach, maybe go road boating, maybe go horseback riding. This is the high schooler would organize this for us kids. She would be 16, 17, 18 maybe. And that was our life. Nobody bothered us. By the way, when we play soccer, if I score a goal, I'm a hero. Nobody says, "What religion are you?" It wasn't a question. We all played together. Okay, do you have any more questions?
Yeah. So we heard you were you were able to get on a boat called the Henry Gibbons. What were you
Cool.
feeling when you were able to get on it, and what was it like in it?
What was it like? Well, that's a story. Maybe 6, 7 months later, we were to the parties, and I had to fight. I had to throw hand grenades at either German or whoever they were, Croatian. They were friends of the German, all that. And one time, when the British would be coming with their small boats at night, helping out the partisans, bringing supplies, food and medicine to the partisans, we would go row to their boat. See, they would come at night and go with the Morse code signal to the partisans. They were hidden in the mountain. So they would come down and we would go unload the ship that they had brought the supply. We'd go with the rowboats. Sometimes the Germans would be shooting at us if we made too much noise, and the Germans heard us, you know. So there was a bad deal. Other times we would just go and unload in our rowboats and row back. So we would have food and we would have medicines and uniforms and all that. And one night uh, I was unloading and I'm unloading, and then I felt like either sleeping or whatever. I sat in the British PT boat or whatever they're called. I sat there and I must have fallen asleep. Next thing, they woke me up. We were going to Italy. See, Italy was out of the war by that time. The US and the British had invaded Italy and started advancing, and Italians had said, we give up. So at that point, the British and Americans were in charge of a portion of Italy. So we were going that way. And the guys, the officers, British officers, talked to us in some funny language. I didn't know what it was. I didn't speak any English. Yeah. But I spoke Italian. So one of the officers knew some Italian. So he said, what are you doing here? I said, I was loading and I fell asleep. So they couldn't go back because it was getting daylight and Germans would catch us. So they took us to Italy and they took me to an Italian camp. It wasn't Italian, it was run by the British, but a camp of the refugees. And I was there. By the way, I was by myself. I didn't know where my father was. We got lost in the shuffle, going through the mountains. So one day I was walking down the street and I see three guys coming. One of them looked familiar. I said, hi, Dad. That was my father. I met him to Italy. I met him in Italy. Anyway, we were in Italy for a while. Then it seems like Italian government was upset that there were too many refugees. So they started complaining, and President Roosevelt says, not a problem, I'll take 1,000. And that's how we got Henry Gibbons. Henry Gibbons was one of the ships in Naples waiting for us and wounded American soldiers. We all boarded. There were 28 ships together making a convoy going to the United States, going back. And there were 4 destroyers, military ships to protect us.
Wow.
So we took off, and it took us 15 days because we had to zigzag and try to duck the German submarines. They attacked us 4 times while we were on the ship.
That sounds really scary.
Yeah, and the British and the one American and several British destroyers, they went after the submarines. And we were down below the deck. They gave us, you know what a hammock is?
Yeah.
Everybody got a hammock to sleep. That was their quarters. Darkness, everything was covered. Nobody was supposed to go upstairs. This was wartime. So I guess we were choking because the destroyers put an artificial smoke to hide the ships. Everything stopped. We weren't supposed to make noise. Even a little noise, the submarines could hear us. So That place was like on Henry Gibbons. When the submarines weren't there, we would be on the deck playing games, kids' games, and the grown-ups would be there sunning themselves, and they would be getting mad at us because we were running around the deck and maybe stepping over them. You know, a kid is a kid. You know what you would do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was it like in Fort Ontario? How did you feel?
Fort Ontario. When we came to the harbor of New York, they put us on little boats, uh, took us to a train station. They put us on the trains, and we slept that night. I know we had like a bed in the train. It was plushy, and we liked it. We went there, and in the morning they said, everybody out, and we see barbed wire. You know, this. Uh-oh, he said, we're back in the concentration camp. Well, it wasn't concentration camp. It was Fort Ontario. They opened the gate. We entered. They locked the gate. That was it. For a year and a half, we stayed there. But it wasn't so bad because this was in August. In September, they said, okay, all the kids have to go to school. So by that time, I was 14 something. They put me in 7th grade with little kids. You know, they were. How old were you? I mean, when you were in 7th grade, how old were you?
I'm actually not in 7th grade yet. I'm in 6th grade right now.
Oh, okay. So I was 14. I wanted to be with kids my own age. So anyway, we started learning a language, English language. We were mixed with the other American kids. The class was, of course, in English, yeah, and we didn't speak any English. I didn't know one word. But guess what? In 1 month, we were chatting English like we were born here. Yeah. And the kids were making fun of us, you know, but they liked us, and they couldn't come to our camp, and we couldn't come out except going to school. And we had to sign out and come back in. If you don't get in by 5 o'clock, they send the police after you. So we couldn't have any activities. But that's how did we feel? It was life. We enjoyed it in camp, in school. We were pretty good students. All at once, we learned the language. We were top students. Top, you know, getting good grades and all that. And life was good. Lots of food, lots of athletic activities. I didn't mind it, but my parents wanted to go out in freedom.
Did you like being back in school?
Being back in school, that's a good question. I hadn't been going to school for 2 years. Going back to school. Again, it was, at first it was difficult because kids made fun of us. Then when we learned English, they didn't make fun of us anymore. We were all together, you know, doing homework and trying to pass the tests, and like every kid, same as anybody else. And we enjoyed life like everybody else. Next question.
This is our final question.
Yes.
How did you feel when you heard you could stay in America?
How do I feel? What?
When you heard you could stay in America?
Okay. When we were there for a year and a half, then the war ended. and no more war. And see, we had signed a contract that we would that would let us come to the United States. But at the end of the war, we would have to go right back to our country. So they said, okay, everybody pack up. You go back to your country. The war is over. And we said, what country? We don't have a country. We escaped from one, we went to another. We didn't have a country. So we said, we can't go anywhere. So there was a little bit of political back and forth in Congress to try to make us stay. Because what's the point? They let new refugees come in, and we are here. We're Americanized. We know everything, and we have to go back. So the Congress said, okay, they can come to the United States, but first they have to leave. So we had to go to Canada. Yeah, we went by train to Canada, and we got there in a place, what is it, Niagara Falls. Did you
Toronto?
ever hear of Niagara Falls?
Yeah, I've been there before.
Oh, good for you. Have you been there?
We were supposed to.
Well, it's a very, very nice place to visit. Anyway, there's half of Niagara Falls is in the United States, and the other half is in Canada. So we went to Canada, to Niagara Falls, and then I guess they send the buses someplace else, and then we step over one at a time across a bridge. Half in the middle of the bridge, there was immigration people. Who are you? Yeah, they had everything ready, but it's a procedure. And we signed up to come back in the United States. There was another thing. Everybody wanted to go to New York City, but they say you can't go there. Everybody has to be dispersed. Why? Because they had organizations that were going to help, and an organization can't help 1,000 people. So in New York, maybe said they'll take 20, or someplace they'll take 10. And for us, they said Dallas, Texas. And my father, when he heard Texas, he seen a lot of cowboy movies. Bang, bang. And then he said, shoot them up, cowboy. No, they're going to kill me there. I don't want to go to Dallas. So, okay, where do you want to go? We'll send you to Chicago. And he heard of Al Capone. You know who Al Capone was?
Yeah, wasn't he part of a mafia?
Yeah. And he says, oh, Al Capone and the mafia, they rule Chicago. They'll shoot me. No. So where do you want to go? He wanted to go to New York. They wouldn't let him. Then he wanted to go to Las Vegas. He knew about that. No, nobody's going to Las Vegas. How about Philadelphia? We never heard of Philadelphia. It's a big city, right? New York was biggest, then Chicago, then Philadelphia. Now it's LA and all others. Anyway, Philadelphia. Okay, so we went to Philadelphia. And in Philadelphia, there was about 10 families that went there. I went to work. My sisters went to school. I was 15 years old at that time, maybe 15 and a half. They found me a job in a factory, and I went to work. And at night, I would take a trolley car and go to school. See, they had day schools and they had night schools. I went to a school, got my high school diploma. Then I went to a university called Temple University. You ever hear of that school?
Yeah.
It's in Philadelphia. I went there, got a diploma there, all at night. I was working in daytime. Then I got a job with the federal government. They gave me a traveling ticket and said, go travel. And I traveled for the next 39 years. And then I retired. And it was fun, all of it. What other questions do you have?
I think that's
was it.
it. Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I don't have any other questions.
Okay, well, it was a pleasure telling you my story.
Thank
It was a
you.
pleasure seeing you.
What?
It was a pleasure hearing your story and seeing
Oh.
you.
Well, my son went to this school
Yeah, we
for
heard.
8 years. You knew him?
No, we just heard.
He's a little bit older than you. Yeah, like maybe 4 years. No, 5 years. You're in 6th grade.
6th grade.
He is now going to 12th. Yeah. Let me take off my finger.
Thank you for coming here and thank you for answering our questions.
Okay, well, it was my pleasure, all of it. And
Thanks to 6th graders for helping us out with this episode. We can see the podcast will be in good hands next year.
In 2 weeks, we'll be releasing our last regular podcast of the school year. We have something really special planned, so you won't want to miss it.
Until then, keep on connecting. Bye!
Thanks for joining us. If you're watching us on video, you can find our audio version in all your favorite podcast players and listen on the go. Just search for KSDS Schechter Connector. If you're listening to the audio version and want to see the video to go along with what you just heard, visit ksds.edu and follow the link to our YouTube page from there. You can learn more about Krieger Schechter Day School of Baltimore by visiting ksds.edu.